call this the functional status markers. So let's take a physical job. It's an easier one to conceptualize right now. We have parallel things from the psychological cognitive perspective, but physically, you can appreciate that in any given job, there's going to be a certain amount of time devoted, say, to sitting, to standing, to walking, to bending, to lifting, to carrying. So all these parameters, physical parameters, are depicted here. For this specific job, for somebody to be able to do this job, they have to be able to sit for 125 minutes. They have to be able to stand for roughly the same length of time. So all those parameters, they're baseline across this black line here. If I'm going to go back to that job, we have a way of marking some tasks are more essential than others. We have a way of benchmarking that. And so as the person is recovering, we want to find out, if we were to measure them physically, it's called a functional ability evaluation, how much can I actually sit, stand, stoop, bend, lift, carry, for? And so hopefully what we're doing is with rehab process, these different time series is moving up towards the intersection point of that baseline, their physical job demands. So say we have something comparable, a bit more sophisticated, a bit more complex in terms of cognitive, but the same principle applies. We're wanting to move the person closer and closer towards being able to meet the memory demands, the problem-solving demands, the psychomotor demands of the job, and the like. So each of, I'll kind of give you the big picture of everything, but this also gives the ability to zoom in. So let's take the physical demands, for example. We have sleep, balance, dizziness, tinnitus, noise in the ears, sexual activity, non-headache pain, hand coordination, headache pain. We have a cluster of cognitive variables here, and we have the emotional variables here as well. What so many outcome measurements do is they're strictly global measures of functioning, so that I'm not able to zoom in on a very specific issue or aspect. So sleep in of itself, sleep is absolutely so critical. There's almost no psychological impairment, physical impairment that one can have without disturbing sleep. So if you can focus strictly on improving somebody's sleep, you can appreciate that it's going to improve their psychological status, it's going to improve their physical status, they're going to probably recover the healing underneath, is probably going to be tremendously benefited. So it's legitimate for me, just as it may be a psychologist or in terms of a sleep lab or a physician trying different medication, just to focus on that. So it's so common that we might take a whole clustering of physical, emotional, or cognitive, and our outcome measures don't allow us to really take a micro view at some very specific targeted areas that could be extremely relevant. Huh?
What are the different colored bars?
Oh, sorry, time series. My apologies. Yes, these are all time series. You'll see over here the different times. So serial measurement. Sorry about that. Any other questions about this? And please, when things like that occur, sometimes I have a tendency to not go in sequence. So definitely pull me back and ask for a clear explanation. And the same thing is true from the standpoint of perceived life role, again, the different time series. In this case, this is disability. It's 100% is 100% disabled. And you want these to be going down in time, less disability in terms of that life role. So again, by being able to have these different domains and having a measure that isn't just an overall global domain of participation or of disability, it allows for those areas to be zoomed in on and become an area specifically for intervention.